Hey everyone, so equality of outcome is something that is brought up quite a bit in any debate about feminism or social justice. Equality of outcome means, of course, that no matter your talents, your drive, your motivation, your intelligence, your reliability, your affability, or how you deal with people, no matter any of those things, your life and your prosperity should be the same or at least similar to everyone else's. So I thought it would be interesting to take a look at how enforcing equality of outcome would look in certain areas. First off, we have the prison population in the US. As you can see, the vast majority of prisoners in the US are male, and it isn't even a close race. We have 1,352 males incarcerated. Granted, this was from 2010, so it may have changed a bit, but we have roughly 1,300 males in prison per 100,000 in the US. And by a huge contrast, there are roughly 126 females in prison per 100,000. So what do feminists and those who spend their days worried about every difference between genders, what do they propose we do about that? Is it that there is no difference between men and women and the way we behave? If that's the case, there must be some war on men, because what else could end in such unequal results? And now what do we do to make everything equal in this regard? Should law enforcement focus on women more and maybe set quotas to try and equalize the outcome here? In other words, once too many men have been arrested, should the police put effort into arresting more women so everything is more equitable, and also so men are not being as oppressed in such a manner? Moving on, how about deaths in the workplace? As you can see here, from 2015 to 2016, you had roughly 4,500 to 4,800 males die due to fatal workplace injuries. In great contrast, you had roughly 344 to 387 females die in the workplace. Part of the reason for this is that men, on average, work in far more dangerous jobs. So what do you propose we do about this? Is this not a serious enough issue to take swift and decisive action? How about barring a certain number of men from entering into these fields? I mean, hey, there'd be a big increase in demand for workers among these jobs, and that means that women would likely be able to get extremely high salaries for these jobs. It's just that the probability for workplace fatalities among women would likely increase quite sharply. So is there anything feminists and the SJW types would like to say about this? Can we apply equality of outcome to this situation? Or do they simply not care enough to talk about these things because it does not fit their narrative? Or how about suicides? Men kill themselves at a far higher rate than women. Should therapists and psychologists and counselors stop accepting women as patients and begin seeing more men? After all, it seems as if men are in far more need of medical attention than women. How about a law dictating that therapists must see a greater ratio of men than that of women? Because as I said, men seem to need far more help in this regard than women do. And if we pass a law forbidding therapists from seeing a disproportionate number of women, that means more men will likely get help, and therefore fewer men will take their own lives. Would this not potentially both save lives and make everything more equal? It's two birds with one stone. I wait for the SJWs to endorse this idea. That will never happen, of course. You see, while feminism and the social justice narrative concerns itself with the gender wage gap, which isn't even an issue when you take into consideration women's own choices of, on average, entering lower paying fields, or not negotiating salaries or promotions to the same extent as men, or making their own choice to forego their careers to have children, which is something I'm in full support of if that's what they want to do. But when those things are taken into consideration, the gender wage gap closes significantly. Meanwhile, feminists and social justice warrior types are completely silent about the real differences between men and women. If they really wanted to get serious about gender issues, they would be talking far more about these significant differences between men and women, which of course, as I said before, are deaths in the workplace, suicide, and of course incarceration rates between men and women. So why do I hear nothing on these topics from those who claim to care about these gender-related issues? The truth is that feminism and social justice has nothing to do with actual justice. It has everything to do with an ideological narrative that is not very kind to certain groups that they have deemed as unworthy of their concern. For example, they don't really care about gender-related issues. If they really did, they would be all over this. We wouldn't be able to shut them up about how unfairly men are treated in regards to what I just talked about. So what do we hear? We hear silence. They say nothing on these issues because they, as a group, are inconsistent, they're not objective, and they are so devoted to their narrative that anything that puts it into question is simply ignored. Thanks, and that's all.